Welcome YouTube to a Narrative Crusades video on several clutch combos with Chaos Space Marines, the very much misunderstood bad guys of the 40k universe. This video is going to look at some of the core units that will form the basis of most strong Chaos Space Marine lists. But first, our grand narrative is live. You can find this in our Discord area. Anybody can join. It's absolutely free. Patrons will get a full extended pack. We're also giving away 2 combat patrols. As a thank you, we're looking at giving away 3 combat patrols from next month onwards as we continue to grow. So, where do we start with our Chaos Space Marines? What are going to be our core brick units? Which characters are we probably going to take? Well, need I say more? The Despoiler is one of the best characters in the game. I think that's not really a question. He is an absolute beast in combat, in terms of Dracayan causing devastating wounds, and the Talon of Horus also causing devastating wounds. So his potential damage output is absolutely huge. Dracayan is strength 14, it's AP 4, it's flat 3 damage, and he has 8 attacks with that monstrous weapon. Now don't forget with this as well, stratagems actually affect him. So there are possibilities for rerolls here if we ever need them. He is the War Master, so he gets to choose one ability. He can cause rerolls to hit for units nearby. He can give units nearby a 4+ invulnerable save, or he can give units reroll to their leadership and battle shock tests. Now, we're going to stick him, quite obviously, with a brick of Terminators. 10 Terminators is still really difficult to kill. They will gain all of the keywords because Abaddon has all of the keywords as well, which means we can use any of those nasty stratagems that we discussed in our last video. They can advance and charge, you can put models back on the board, they fight on death. The potential is absolutely endless, and it's not like Abaddon is shy himself. In fact, I'd almost go as far as to say that possibly Abaddon is a little bit over the top. He doesn't actually give them that much, because they have a 4+ invulnerable save anyway. They reroll their hits themselves if they actually pass a Dark Pact test. So do they really need those? Probably not. And do they actually need to reroll their battle shock tests? Well, if it's going wrong, you're probably going to want to use the CP anyway. So you might decide to stick Abaddon with some Legionaries. I'm going to experiment with it. But to be absolutely fair, you're not going to go wrong with 10 Chaos Terminators with Abaddon in the middle of them. What's another core unit we can use then? Well, we have the scapegoat here, the Master of Possession. I feel he gets a lot of blame for things that aren't necessarily his fault. What can I say? You put a demon in someone, only bad things are going to happen. Maybe he should have known better. He gives Possessed +1 to advance and to charge. He also gives them a 6+ Feel No Pain ability. Now, we're going to look at Possessed in a minute, but the fact they have 3 wounds, that 6+ Feel No Pain, really can come in handy. He also has a Witchfire ability. Now, his Witchfire ability, when firing normally, is Strength 4, AP 3, which is very good, and Damage 2. It has Precision and it has Anti-Psyker. He can also use the Hazardous version, which makes it flat 3 damage, Strength 6. The potential there to snipe off some cheeky Farseers is actually very, very high. So if your opponent has a Psyker, getting him nearby is going to be very helpful. We can also give him the Liber Hereticus if we decide to go down the Chaos Undivided Pact route. What that does is it helps our unit give them lethal hits and sustained hits. I'm not sold on this, but it's an idea. Well, what about the actual Possessed then? They're monsters. Movement 9, toughness 6 now, so they're as tough as Custodes. 3+ save, 3 wounds is very, very useful. There's a lot of damage 2 weapons out there. There's less damage 3 weapons. You don't really want to shoot these with damage 3 weapons because that's more your anti-tank kind of area. Don't forget your 6+ Feel No Pain. And then they have a 5+ invulnerable save. Their weapons themselves, 4 attacks each, weapon skill 3, strength 5, AP 1, a little bit disappointing perhaps, but flat 2 damage. Slanesh is best with these guys because that means they've got exploding 5s. Why do we want exploding 5s? Because if we pass a pact test, we have devastating wounds. That makes all of our wounds mortals. That will be, that's going to kill most things. If you've got 10 of these, that's 40 attacks. The other option is to go down the undivided route and just go for lots of fishing and hope you're really, really good at rolling 6. Give them sustained hits and then just re-roll all of your wounds as well with the stratagem. Right, that's 2 units discussed. There's a third option as well. We're going to want 2 characters in this one. We're going to take the Exalted Champion. Why? Because he gives us +1 to hit, and that's in shooting and melee. He's not a pushover himself. He's got a good weapon in his combi weapon. He's got a better weapon in his Exalted weapon. He does, when he passes a Dark Pact test, add D3 to the strength of that weapon. Realistically, that's going to make it 6 to 8. 6 is good, 8 is better, 7 is fairly inconsequential. It's not bad at all. He's very dependable at kicking out some extra damage. We might want to give him the Talisman of Burning Blood if we decide to go down the Khorne route. However, I'm going to suggest we don't, because we're going to put the Master of Executions in there. We could put a number of different characters here. We could put a Chaos Lord. We could put Fabius Bile. However, for today, I'm going to say we're going to put the Master of Executions in there. Why? Well, because we're going down this Khorne route in my example. Now, what that does is that gives him +1 attack and +1 strength unless we do our Dark Pact test. So if we do our Dark Pact, we're now in strength 8 to 10. That means we're hitting and wounding Space Marines on 2s, and even tougher targets like Terminators might still be wounded on 2s. If we look at our Warp-Sighted Butcher ability over there, what we can see is that we can re-roll our hit rolls if our opponent is actually below starting strength. In most cases, we're going to have chipped off a model from a unit before we charge it, especially when we look at what we're going to combine this with. There's also the possibility that we can be re-rolling our wounds as well. With a little bit of luck, let's say we roll a 3 on our D3 bonus attacks. We now have 8 attacks. If we're going down the Khorne route, we've got lethal hits in melee. It's not unreasonable to expect that we get 4 auto wounds before we even get going. Now, that might be a bit of a dis-synergy in terms of the fact that, an anti-synergy, sorry, in terms of the fact that we have devastating wounds. But the more armor saves you force your opponent to take, they're going to fail some. AP2 is good enough to put most things onto a 4+ invulnerable save. Anything else that's not got that kind of armor is a worse save at that point anyway. They're going to start failing them. They're going to start taking damage. And he potentially has a lot of attacks. Right, what are we going to put these 2 with? We're going to put them with Chosen. We can go anywhere with the marks on this. I've gone down the Khorne route for today's example. But if we look here, the bolt guns have got 2 attacks each. Don't forget they get +1 to hit because of the champion. So they're hitting on 2s. Even combi weapons suddenly are hitting on 3s. We can have up to 4 combi weapons in a unit of 10. That's not shy either. I just quite like the bolt guns, to be honest, because 20 bolt guns hitting on 2s, you can take the lethal hits. You're going to get some wounds. That's definitely going to cause some chip damage. We can advance and charge as standard, no matter what mark we put in them, because they're Chosen Marauders. If we're then auto wounding on 5s in combat, they've got 4 attacks each. That's going to be enough to destroy a lot of units, and that's not even considering the Exalted Champion and the Master of Executions attacks. My final one here, I don't think this is necessarily an auto include, but this is just great fun, is Harken Worldclaimer. He's easy to kit bash if you don't want to buy the model. All you really need is a Warp Talon and a model with a spear, and you can put that in there yourself. It is worth noting he is undivided. Now that means he gets access to the stratagem that lets him reroll all his hits and all of his wounds. However, the raptors that he has to join will also have to be undivided. Now, he can be causing, with a unit of 10 raptors, 5 mortal wounds on the charge. That's before you even hit anything. He then has the Herald's Talon, which is 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s because he's undivided, and then with Strength 5, AP2, flat 2 damage. There's a lot of potential to cause some damage there. He has 1 extra attack with his Hell Spear. You might get really lucky and get those sustained hits D3 in. And then we want the Raptors. Now, the Raptors, if we take 10, because it's a lot of fun, they're nearly always going to charge. They're causing battle shock tests. Harken World Claimer causes additional battle shock tests as well. You're looking at 20 plus attacks with lethal hits, plus Harken. It's a really fun unit. It picks up a lot of things on the board. It's not the best unit, let's not pretend, but I've been having a lot of fun with it. The Chaos Space Marine Index cards are absolutely loaded with other units as well. The Dark Commune is a lot of fun, and Fabius Bile himself is also very, very, very interesting, adding strength and toughness to a unit. Maybe worth throwing into a unit of Chosen. Thanks for listening. In the comments, if you'd like to see more of these little series on other factions or more from Chaos, add it into the comments. We'll see what we can do. Thanks for listening.